Hey everybody, HMV here, playing some Kerbal Space Program, and I'm going to tell you what I'm doing in a second when we have some spare time. But for right now, I'm just showing you a brand new basic settings screen. We're basically doing a standard game, normal or moderate or whatever the heck it is. The only thing I've changed on the basic screen is that missing crews stay dead. And in the advanced settings, all I changed was that I have to pay for part upgrades. I wanted this a little bit harder than normal, but not too much. So we build our first science pod. This is all standard stuff at the beginning, so I'm kind of skipping through it pretty quick. I did add the perform all science thing from all y'all in there. That's the only mod I have installed right now. I might add a time warp mod if I start to get sick of waiting for time warp to complete. And then we see here on the launch pad, Jeb jumps to get flying EVA science. That's just a nice little trick to get a little bit of extra science, especially at the beginning. It comes in handy when you need like 5 science for something and you got 4. So we got 15 science earned. We can unlock 2 nodes. We're going to take the Reach Space contract. We still have not launched a vessel, so we still have that contract. And then we're just going to put a whole bunch of fuel on a ship, a swivel engine, a decoupler, some goos, and some hammers at the bottom. And of course, we can't forget to remove the monoprop from the thing, and last but not least, got to get those thermometers on there. So we go through here, and I'm adjusting the fuel tanks here to make sure the top one's empty last. That way the rocket stays stable on ascent. If you keep the center of gravity, center of mass really far forward on the ship, it's going to fly a lot better, and these early ships need that because if they empty top down, you're going to be in some serious trouble. So Orbit 1 launches, and now we finally have time to sit back and talk about what we're doing. And what we're doing is the Caveman Evolved Challenge. This is a challenge I put up on the forums. I think it's kind of cool. If you've done the Caveman Challenge, which I have done actually on this here stream, maybe if I remember, I'll put a link to it down in the show notes below the video. But the idea is to fill out the tech tree that you can fill out without upgrading any buildings. And it's pretty good because it involves a lot of basic things that you're used to doing, but you don't have patch conics. You're not going to have anything that helps you in any way, and you don't get any of the good items that cost more than 90 tech because you can never upgrade R&D. The idea is with the Caveman Evolved Challenge is I wanted to continue the Caveman style without limiting you to 0 upgrades. So I got this idea. I counted how many planets there were and how many moons there were and how many tech upgrades there were, building upgrades there were. And I realized that there are 5 planets and 14 worlds, if you want to call it that you can land on, excepting Jewel and Kerbin, because Kerbin you're already on it, and Jewel you can't really land on it. So 14 plus 5 is 19, and there are 18 building upgrades. So I decided that every world you land on, you get 1 building upgrade for, and every planet you return from, you get 1 building upgrade for, except the very first one. So the first thing you do, which is like land on Moon or Minmus, you get nothing for it. So that's Caveman, right? Because generally you're going to do that. The second one you land on, generally Moon or Minmus, you get a single upgrade. So if you take your Caveman save, where you've done the tech tree, and if you've landed on both Moon and Minmus during that Caveman save, which is a pretty fair deal, you start out the Caveman Evolved Challenge with 1 building upgrade. And now you have to go interplanetary because there's nothing else to land on in Kerbin's Sphere of Influence. So you could get patch conics, or you could get a bigger launch pad, or you could get a bigger VIB, depending on what you want. But I personally am probably going to go for patch conics because I don't want to go interplanetary without at least seeing that I'm going to have an encounter, even though I can't do maneuver nodes to get it. But anyway, we've just gotten into space here, and so we've gotten the go to space contract, and now before we get into orbit, though, we want to take the orbit contract. So we hop on back to the Space Center, and we accept the orbit Kerbin contract here, so that we can do that. Check for other contracts, but there aren't any good ones, so sadly, we hop back to space. Circularize at Apoapsis, and boom, we just got that other contract. And now we need to come home, but first we need to go back to Mission Control to get that return from orbit contract because we need as much money as possible. Then we burn down to re-enter, 30 kilometers out to do it. On the way down, I was a little concerned overheating because the temperature, the thermometers in particular, are kind of weak. And so I spun the pod a bit to spread the temperature around so that nothing would explode, and nothing did explode. And we successfully splashed down and get some extra science in the water. Why not? 118 total. Pretty nice. So now we can afford to get outsourced R&D, and we take it. Science is king. Money's pretty easy to get in this game, so I want to convert as much of it to science as we possibly can. So let's see. Explore the moon. Let's try it. Explore the moon. We should be able to fly by the moon, no problem. So we also get a contract to incorporate the hammer at the launch. I'm sure I can probably do that, even with the limited options we have on launch. We can also grab some more tech nodes now, including some extra science stuff, which is nice, and radial decouplers, which is nice, and some better fuel tanks, which is nice because with the 30-part limit, the bigger fuel tanks cut the number of fuel tanks we need in half, which is pretty nice. I really want the Terrier, but I can't quite afford it yet. The Terrier is really for things like landing on moon and maneuvering in space. Just doing big burns, the swivel will be fine, and the Reliant will be fine too. So we build Moon Flyby 1, piloted by Jebediah Kerman, complete with the hammers to start, very slowly off the launch pad, and there's also a science box to store experiments, making the perform all science much easier because the way I have all y'all set up, or I had, and Linux Guru Gamer now has all y'all set up, you can just have that window open and perform all science, and then transfer all science, then reset all science. Just go through that cycle, and you get all the science you possibly can. So with stage 2 spent, we kick it away and use the main ship to reach low Kerbal orbit, and we lose some of our new science on the way. Oops, oh well. That's what you get for not having Kerbal Engineer to tell you all your stuff and watching things from map mode. But it's pretty obvious we don't have the fuel to reach the moon, so we're going to take the science we can up here and head back down to the surface, losing a mystery goo along the way. Nice. Good thing we transferred the data to the box, though, because the mystery goo was basically empty. A nice landing in the Kerbal Highlands, and we get all more science. Yay, jump for joy, Jeb, jump for joy, and science. Speaking of science, we got 98. I wish we had something to spend it on. How about a Terrier? Yes, and struts. Oh yeah, we are set to go. Let's go Moon Flyby 2. Piloted by Val this time, with no hammer and a nice new Terrier-propelled main ship. It should have what it takes to send a Kerbal the whole distance. If it'll launch, yeah, maybe we should have 2 thumpers instead of the swivel. And let's take a larger fuel tank away, swapping it for the smaller one so we can afford the Terriers weight-wise. And while we're at it, let's swap all those bigger ones for even bigger tanks to cut down on part count. Moon Flyby 2, take 2, go to launch. But first, let's open the service bay so we can easily trigger and store all science in flight. And launch. Much better ascent this time, Val. First stage burnout at about 31 kilometers and 1,200 meters per second, not bad at all. And now it's time for the Terrier to do its work. We get to orbit with about half of our fuel left. Looks like we're going to make it to the moon this time. That looks pretty good about right there. And not a bad encounter for no patch conics, though with patch conics, we do better. I can't wait until we have 2 patch conics. I just cannot do this without patched conics. So a quick trip back to mission control to see what we can get. Orbit moon? Do we have the fuel to orbit the moon? I think we might have the fuel to orbit moon. There's only one way to find out, and Val's life is forfeit in a caveman save. I suppose we could do math, but I don't like math, so we're not going to do that. And you'll note that here as I'm burning down, it shows a closed orbit, but the orbit is outside Moon's sphere of influence, so it actually doesn't count, even though it's technically an orbit. So I have to keep burning down until I actually complete the contract, rather than just look at the non-patched conics orbit. And there we go. So now they want us to return from Moon. Geez, make up your minds, guys. So we do an orbit to get in a good position to burn home, and that looks good. I have no idea how much to burn, so I'm just burning here. Not bad. Not bad. Actually, Val did a good job there. So we burned down to 45 kilometers, periapsis. Why not? Sounds good. And as we get close, let's use the last of our fuel to slow down as much as possible for this re-entry. If you get the angle just right between retrograde and radial here, is what I'm doing, you can slow down without lowering or raising your periapsis. And we run out of fuel, so we ditch the final stage. And I will admit, on the way down, the craft could be a bit more stable. I really wish Val had the option to hold retrograde here. I also wish my electric charge wasn't going down so quickly. So I'm going to aim the craft sideways to bleed off as much speed as possible. And then I notice the electric charge is plummeting. So I'm going to turn SAS off and just wobble the craft. So that way I save power, but I still get a lot of aero braking. And then I get an idea. And I say, hey, why don't I open the pod bay doors, Hal? They actually seem to work pretty well. They add a lot of extra drag to the ship. So I don't know if it saved Val, but it definitely made things a lot less hairy. Then we get the chutes to trigger, and it's really dark. So let's try that new ambient light setting. Oh, that's a bit too much. Let's try 15%. Yeah, that seems about close to what I would normally do with the ambient light adjustment mod. And a perfect landing for Val with a ton of science and a lot of fulfilled contracts. 240 science. Wow, we are ready to land on Moon. And look at that, we get a contract to land on the Moon. But that's going to be next time. Let's spend our science, though. We got solar power and probes and a spark engine. So now we could probably land on Moon with a spark engine and a probe core, and that'll save us a lot of weight, and we could probably bring a lot of science. And also fins. That way we can use the Reliant on launch and get a little bit extra boost off of the launch pad. So next up, Moon. I hope you enjoyed watching this. I definitely enjoyed playing it. I'm HMV, and I will, as always, talk at you later.